The Awakening: Africa's Resurgence and Western Fears. In recent years, Africa has been experiencing a remarkable awakening, shaking off the shackles of colonialism and asserting its sovereignty in the global arena. As African nations assert their rights and prioritize the well-being of their people over Western exploitation, the once dominant colonizers find themselves on shaky ground, fearing the loss of their grip on the continent's vast resources. This essay delves into the past history and investigates the dynamics at play as Africa rises and the West trembles. Historical exploitation. For centuries, Africa has been the target of Western exploitation, with colonial powers plundering its rich natural resources for their own gain. From diamonds to gold, oil to minerals, Africa's wealth has lined the pockets of Western corporations and governments, while its people languished in poverty. A new dawn, however. In recent decades, Africa has begun to assert itself on the global stage. With the end of colonial rule and the rise of indigenous leadership, African nations have started to reclaim their resources and demand fair treatment from the West. Initiatives such as the African Union and Pan-Africanism have strengthened unity and cooperation among African states, presenting a formidable front against external interference. Threat to Western interests. The resurgence of Africa poses a significant threat to Western interests, particularly those vested in maintaining control over the continent's resources. As African leaders prioritize the development and empowerment of their people, Western corporations face the prospect of losing access to cheap labor and abundant raw materials. This shift in power dynamics has rattled the foundations of Western dominance, prompting fears of economic decline and loss of influence. Labeling dissent as terrorism. In response to Africa's assertiveness, Western powers have resorted to labeling dissenting nations as terrorist states to justify their interventionist agendas. When African leaders refuse to bow to Western demands and prioritize the interests of their people, they are branded as threats to global security, paving the way for covert operations and military interventions. Agencies like the CIA and DGSE are rumored to be involved in clandestine activities, including assassinations, to suppress any challenges to Western hegemony. The rise of economic terrorism. Ironically, it is the West's own exploitation and disregard for African sovereignty that have fueled resentment and resistance on the continent. By treating Africa as a mere cash cow, to be milked dry, Western powers have sown the seeds of their own downfall. As African nations awaken to their potential and assert their rights, they are challenging the status quo and demanding a fairer distribution of wealth and resources. In conclusion, Africa's resurgence represents a pivotal moment in history, with profound implications for global power dynamics. As African nations assert their sovereignty and prioritize the well-being of their people, the Western colonizers find themselves trembling at the prospect of losing their grip on the continent's resources. However, the resilience and determination of the African people signal a new era of self-determination and empowerment, challenging the narrative of Western supremacy and paving the way for a more equitable world order.